At an adaptive sports clinic on a Saturday afternoon, a 9-year-old girl adjusted her running blade and looked up at Tom Bracken, a single father lacing his own prosthetic leg beside her. "Did anyone ever not want you because your leg is missing?" she asked, with the flat directness only children manage before the world teaches them to soften hard questions. Tom's hand stopped on the strap. He'd answered plenty of questions about his leg in 12 years since losing it, but never one asked with this much at stake behind it. Tom, 38, was a former Army mechanic who lost his right leg below the knee in 2013 in an incident that ended a career he'd spent 6 years building. He spent the next 18 months relearning how to walk, then retrained as a physical therapist specializing in pediatric prosthetics, a field where fewer than 4% of practitioners are amputees themselves, a statistic patients' families noticed immediately and trusted instantly. He'd been a single father for 5 years, since adopting his son, Miles, who was born with a congenital limb difference affecting his left hand. The girl Priya was 9 and had lost her left leg above the knee to osteosarcoma diagnosed when she was 5. She'd been in foster care for 3 years, following her diagnosis and her family's inability to manage her medical needs alongside 2 younger siblings. A heartbreak Tom recognized wasn't cruelty, just poverty colliding with a hospital bill that had reached $340,000 before insurance intervention. In those 3 years, Priya had been shown to 11 prospective families. None had moved forward. Caseworkers don't publish the reasons, but the pattern was one Tom had seen before. Kids with visible medical complexity get looked at longer and chosen less. Priya hadn't asked the question randomly. Her caseworker had brought her to the clinic that morning specifically because Tom was, by the program director's count, the only adult amputee currently volunteering across 3 regional adaptive sports programs, making him the single most visible example Priya had ever seen of a grown man who'd lost a limb and still had, in her words overheard by a volunteer, a whole entire life. She wasn't asking about his leg. She was asking whether people like her got picked. Tom knelt to her eye level, something he did automatically with patience, but this time his hands were shaking. He told her the truth. Yes, someone hadn't wanted him once. A relationship had ended 8 months after his amputation. The reason never stated outright, but understood anyway. Then he told her about Miles, how out of 14 prospective foster families the agency initially considered for his son, Tom was the one who asked to see Miles's hand in the intake photo before meeting him, not despite it. "I wanted to see all of him first," he told her, "because that's the part people usually look away from, and I didn't want him to feel like I looked away too." Priya put her hand over her mouth and cried, not from sadness, a volunteer later said, but the specific kind of crying that happens when a child hears for the first time a true answer to a question she'd been afraid to ask for 3 years. What Tom didn't know in that moment, Priya's caseworker, Denise Ferris, had already flagged his files 6 weeks earlier as a potential match after reviewing his home study renewal, required annually for foster to adopt certification, and noted his clinical specialty made him one of exactly 2 certified foster parents in the entire county with direct pediatric amputee care experience. Denise had been waiting for the right moment to introduce them, and the sports clinic wasn't a coincidence. It was a carefully engineered first meeting, built on weeks of paperwork Priya knew nothing about. Foster to adopt placements for children with significant medical needs move at roughly 1/3 the speed of standard placements nationally, according to county tracking data. Denise cited to Tom directly, an average of 22 months compared to 7 months for children without ongoing medical requirements. Tom had technically been eligible to foster a second child for 14 months already, but had hesitated, uncertain he could manage Miles's needs alongside another child's. Priya's question in that clinic didn't just move him emotionally. It answered the practical question he'd been avoiding. He already knew, better than almost anyone in the county, exactly how to help her. Priya moved into Tom and Miles's home 3 weeks after that conversation, beginning a state-mandated 6-month supervised placement period before adoption could be finalized. The early weeks weren't simple. Priya tested boundaries the way children who've been unchosen 11 times learn to, watching for the moment Tom might change his mind. He didn't. By month 4, Miles and Priya had invented a shared morning routine comparing prosthetic maintenance like other siblings compare shoes, an ordinary domestic detail that meant to Tom everything had finally clicked into place. The adoption was finalized on a Tuesday in November, exactly 19 months after Tom had first been flagged as a potential match, and just over 3 years since Priya entered foster care. The judge reviewing the file noted it was the county's first recorded case of a single father with a limb difference adopting a child with a matching category of disability, a pairing the agency's own tracking system hadn't previously coded for, because it had never happened before in the county's 40-year record-keeping history. Tom didn't stop at his own family. Working with Denise, he helped design a training addition to the county's foster certification course specifically addressing disability-matched placements, now required for all 60 new foster parent applicants annually. Within its first year, disability-flagged placements in the county dropped from an average wait of 22 months to 13 months. Not because more people volunteered, but because the system finally asked the right questions up front, instead of treating visible difference as a complication to manage around. Tom had spent 12 years believing his missing leg was the hardest thing anyone would ever ask him to explain. It took a 9-year-old's blunt, unfiltered question to show him the harder thing wasn't losing a limb. It was wondering, for 3 straight years, whether that loss made you someone worth choosing. The lesson isn't that Tom saved Priya. It's that the honest answer to a child's hardest question is sometimes the only thing standing between her and believing she was never wanted at all.